Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, whenever you are catching this episode. Welcome to episode 59 of the Uncommon Commentators. I'm the boy, Antoine, and this is the man, Garrett, my co host. Today, we got an arraignment of topics for y'all on the basketball side of sports. But yeah, how you feeling today, Garrett? You good, brother?
Yes, sir. I'm all good. How about you, man?
I'm doing all right, man. Can't complain. It was pretty chilly in Atlanta. We just got
Yeah.
over a snowstorm. We do not get snow down here, so a lot of the things that are normally open, of course, were canceled. Even the Hawks game versus the Houston Rockets was pushed back, which was pretty unfortunate. That's on January 28th now for anyone who still might be going to that. But outside of that, though, I've been good, man. Life's been good. It's been working, grinding, of course, like everybody else does across the world. And how about you, man? How's life and everything been outside of the game? You been all right?
Yeah, man. On the grind, working just like you. So in the same boat, got the same hustle.
Absolutely, man. Of course, blessed to do it. Blessed and highly favored. But again, we want to appreciate y'all for joining us again tonight. Thank y'all so much for being here. Y'all could be anywhere in the world, but you decided to be here with us for the hour that we will have you. And tonight, for the first topic on the Uncommon Commentators, we wanted to show some love to the Eastern Conference of the NBA. And most notably, of course, everyone knows about the Cleveland Cavaliers right now, but the Cleveland Cavaliers actually fell victim to the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers were on a 7-game win streak until it was just snapped. I think it was by Cleveland again in a rematch. So that shows you those teams probably might see each other in the playoffs come April, May, the playoff time. And I think Indiana's like good, man. They have like multiple players averaging over 15 points a game, like Miles Turner, Benedict Mathurin, Tyrese Halliburton, of course, and Pascal Siakam. We're finally able to see what the Pacers look like with a full season with Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton as their dynamic duo. And I think they've looked pretty good together. We have seen Tyrese Halliburton's numbers kind of drop compared to his significant season last year. But of course, like that happens when you get another star that comes to join you. And then like Benedict Mathurin, he averaged 16 points his rookie year. But again, I feel like that's because of like the core that they have. Like it's really a lot of wealth to go around. They also have multiple players on the bench averaging 10 points per game. And they've really looked honestly pretty good as of late. Like they were kind of up and down in at the beginning of the season, but I feel like they finally found their footing as we've hit January. But how do you feel about the Pacers thus far? Again, like they ended that massive win streak that Cleveland was on. And they were even on their own at one point, and I think they're looking pretty good, and they're finally starting to find their identity after getting a new star last season, and learning how to share the ball as all the younger players get better, like Andrew Nimhard and the players on the bench.
Yeah, I think Indiana, I thought they would be in a better spot than they were last year because they
Mhm.
went on a really, really great run last year in the playoffs. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I would have thought that with that kind of momentum from last season heading into this season, I would have thought that they would have been a top four, top five seed team.
Mhm.
But right now, they're a top six seed team, and when you look at the race between the fourth and I would say the eighth or ninth seed, all the records of those teams are pretty close. So if they're
Mhm.
able to go on a little run, then hey, they could still be a top four, top five seed team. But to your point, with the addition of Pascal Siakam last season, you're starting to see the chemistry form a little bit better. But now it's more so, okay, when are they going to be able to go on a, catch fire a little bit and for them to hopefully secure home court advantage before the playoffs. But I think for that win against Cleveland, obviously Cleveland is one of the best teams in the East and really the best team. But I would say for that win against Cleveland, I think this gives this team a lot of confidence and momentum. But I think that that was a good win for sure. So, man, I think really for any team, the Hawks, they've beaten Cleveland twice. So obviously, when you beat any of the top teams in either conferences. It always gives you momentum and a lot of confidence. So hopefully this will be something that they would need to catch fire and see if they go on a little winning streak.
And I like what you said about building confidence for them because they really did need it. After that first stretch in the first half of the season, they were really up and down. Like they started off with their win over Detroit, and they lost 3 in a row to the Knicks, the Sixers in Orlando. They beat the Celtics, lost to the Pelicans. So they've been really up and down thus far. But like we just said, they're finally starting to hit their footing. And yeah, like, I think they're still a good team with the core that they do possess. They're still relatively young with the pieces like Obi Toppin and TJ McConnell. TJ McConnell had a really good playoff run last year, and like it was cool to see him really rise to the occasion like that. And Obi Toppin, of course, coming over from the Knicks, I think he's still a pretty good piece. He's still 26 years old, averaging 10 points a game this year with 4 rebounds, shooting 54% from the field. I just think they still have a solid starting lineup and a solid bench. I think it was more so like a matter, like of course, like every other team, they definitely had to deal with their fair share of injuries with players recovering and going in and out of the lineup. I just think with Indiana now, the Eastern Conference has gotten better. I can't really tell you why Tyrese Halliburton's his assists might have dropped. The scoring, sure, because of having Pascal Siakam, of course, coming over to his team. But you would think the assists would actually increase having another star on his team, and really learning his personnel more from over the season, really knowing the strengths and weaknesses of his offensive weapons. And I really think for Tyrese Halliburton, I don't think he's hit a wall or anything like that. He's still averaging 9 assists a game right now, but it's just compared to what he was doing, of course, last season, coming over from Sacramento back in 2022. He got that max. He got that max extension. And like it was well deserved. He was averaging 20 points, 11 assists the last two seasons in a row. And I think right now, of course, like I just mentioned, I think getting used to playing with Pascal has taken apart from his scoring, but I can't really tell you why his playmaking would have dropped the way that it has. But hey, they're still a relatively good team. As we record this, they're currently beating the Detroit Pistons 92-81 right now. And as we look forward down the rest of the season for them, I think they'll probably still make the playoffs. They're the 6th seed as we record this right now. So if the playoffs started today, they would not be in the play-in. So you can only be satisfied with that. In like their schedule, I mean, they can honestly take some of the games coming up. Like I said, they're playing Detroit right now. They play Philly on the 18th, and they play the Spurs back-to-back on the 23rd, 25th, and then they play Detroit, and they play the Hawks on February 1st. So they have some teams coming up that they could definitely beat for sure, like the Spurs, the Pistons. Of course, the Pistons are looking better this season, but they're most definitely. But they're beating them right now. Of course, anything can happen in the NBA on any given night. But we'll see how they do. Like I said, I do think they'll make the playoffs. Winning a ring is obviously extremely difficult, especially this year with Tyrese Halliburton taking a little bit of a dip instead of like going into an even higher superstar level. We've seen Trae Young take over the assist leader this year by a mile. Like it's pretty significant. He's like the only player I think in the league right now even averaging double-digit assists with 12 a game at that, almost like John Stockton and type in numbers. Absolutely. And yeah, how do you feel about Indiana's hopes for the rest of the season? Like I said, I wouldn't call Halliburton a superstar, but it's always good to have 2 stars on the team, 2 like a real all-star caliber players, not just a person really averaging just like 17 and 9 assists, stuff like that. They're really 2 all-star players. Absolutely. We've seen Halliburton be clutch when he's needed to be. And we know that obviously Pascal Siakam is a former NBA champion. So it's good to have that veteran leadership on the team, especially with him still being young himself, Pascal Siakam, because so he could actually have another era on another team. We know he was with the Raptors for a very long time, so it's really cool to see him come over and stay consistent, really remain a star player. He's leading the team in scoring and rebounding at the moment with 20 points and 7 rebounds a game. down there with Miles Turner. So, how do you feel about Indiana's hopes for the rest of the season as they push forward?
Yeah, I think that they have a chance to. I mean, I think they'll make the playoffs for sure. I think they're one of those teams that you can say, yeah, they're definitely going to make it. But for me, it's just more so of like, okay, again, when you refer back to last season when they made it to Eastern Conference Finals, what are they going to do this year? Could they still be a team that could make it there? I'm not
Hmm.
sure because of the fact that you see the growth for um the Cleveland Cavaliers or what they're doing this year. Of course, you still have, Boston. You still have, well, really, you have the Knicks, who are a much better team compared to last year after adding Karl Anthony Towns. And you see the Orlando Magic, they're getting some guys back in Paul Bencaro and Franz Wagner. So I guess for this year is are the Pacers going to be back in the mix in the
Hmm.
playoffs? That's what I'm looking for. But I think, like I said, I think they'll make it. But I'm just looking. I'm more interested to see what are they going to do come the postseason. But I think that, like I said, I think they are a team with Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam, and they have other nice auxiliary pieces around them. So I think that a they have a really good team to, like I said, be one of the top teams in the East. But like I said, it comes to the postseason, then that's where it's going to determine whether or not if they took a step back or if they took a step forward. So we'll just have to wait until that point. But I think for the Pacers, I think they have what it takes to put together a good season still.
Hmm. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like I said, they have a pretty solid schedule coming up with a lot of winnable games that they could definitely take. And like I said, they're finally finding their footing. Like that 7 game win streak did a lot for them. Especially beating Cleveland, like ending Cleveland streak like that. That's definitely gonna do something to you. Most definitely in that locker room. They knew how big of a win that it was. And we're gonna see what happens, honestly. Like we did say, they're currently playing the Detroit Pistons. And we actually wanted to show some love to Detroit. Obviously, last season they were obviously everyone kept saying the stat. They were 3-35, which is very, very bad. Of course, and like no matter how you try to spin it, there's really no way you can defend that kind of record. Like 3 wins, like I can only be happy for Detroit. We know the Detroit Lions. We don't cover football on this podcast, but we can talk about anything, of course, you'll ever want to the viewers. But of course, the Detroit Lions over in the NFL are having a historic season after years of not being that good. So I can only be happy for the city of Detroit. All of Michigan. To be quite honest with you, they drafted Cade Cunningham with the number 1 overall pick. And he's panned out to be exactly that. As of right now, he's leading the league. Leading the betting odds, I should say, for the most improved player award with a minus betting on. I think it was like a minus 180 the last time I checked, averaging 25 points a game and 10 assists. He truly has taken a step up this year. He was playing good last year as well, but I think what he's really done now is truly starting to translate to winning basketball. He's really starting to show that he will indeed be a superstar point guard in the future. It's gonna be really hard to stop a 6'6", 220-pound point guard, especially with his skill set. He's really cerebral on the floor. I think he has. It's hard, man. Like I was gonna say, he has the potential to be like the best point guard in the East, having like his body frame. He's extremely athletic. He can pass with the best of them. He can rebound as well, and I do think he is becoming a better defender. The jump shooting is coming along. He's shooting 38% from 3 this season, 80% from the free throw line. And he's grabbing 7 rebounds a game, so he's almost on triple double watch every night. So it really is cool to see him stay patient. We saw last year. He said on multiple occasions that he never felt outplayed or like he wasn't good enough to win some of those games. It was just that like that's how the dice falls sometimes. Like the final box score is the final box score. But it's different when you know you were in that game, when you know if a couple more shots could have fallen, you could have taken it. And I'm really happy to see like his patience be rewarded with a winning core. You know, they drafted Jaden Ivey. They got Oscar Thompson as well, who I think is going to be a massive piece for them in the future. They just recently drafted Ron Holland at a G League Ignite. Got to shout out to G League Ignite. He was on their last team before G League Ignite was disbanded. Him and Matas Buzelis of the Chicago Bulls, and it's really cool to see them really build this core over time. I would always watch the draft and be on Twitter, and so many Pistons fans, rightfully so, would be devastated for not, they would get like the fifth pick, the sixth pick, the fourth. They couldn't even get a top 3 pick, like to really
already happened before.
Exactly, to even try to put him alongside Cade. So I really am happy for the Pistons. Like they're 8-2. In their last 10, they're the 7th seed right now. They're technically, obviously, they're in the play-in, but they're at the top of the play-in at that. And they're right on the heels of the Indiana Pacers. They're losing to them by 8 points right now. And if they were to beat them, they tied their record. So they might be able to take their rankings. So the fact that the Pistons are really like they're this close to being a playoff team already is pretty scary for the East. I'm not gonna lie, especially with having that tall point guard as their centerpiece, and they still have a really good team, man. Like the roster truly is going to come together very nicely. And Malik Beasley has been great for them, averaging 16 points a game this year. Playing 28 minutes a game for them. He truly has played great in a 6-man role. Also as one of the top 6 men of the year candidate this season, alongside DeAndre Hunter and Peyton Pritchard. So how do you feel about the Pistons this year, man? Like I just think they're really surprising this year. That's why I had to show them love, man. Like they really came out of nowhere. I feel like if they would have been like the 9th to 10th seed, that would have been decent progress for where they were the last couple of seasons. But now they're knocking on the door of the playoffs. So how do you feel about the Pistons and what they've done so far this season?
Yeah, I'm just as shocked as you are, honestly. Of course, you saw the additions that they made over in the offseason, getting veterans such as Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley, guys that fit better into how Detroit wants to run in their system, led by JB Bickerstaff, and who
Mm-hmm.
was a really, really good coach. And as you mentioned with Kay Cunningham, I mean, a guy that's a triple double threat on any given night just shows you how versatile of a point guard he is. And obviously, what they're doing there is working. And like I said, we don't think Detroit is a championship contending team by any means, of course. I think that they have shown that they could definitely make the playoffs this year. And to your point, they're in the 7th seed in a play-in. So if the playoffs started today, they would be in the play-in and they would have themselves a chance to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they have ways to go as far as being a real playoff threat or even a championship caliber franchise. But even for a playoff team, there's definitely more to add. And to your point in the draft, I think some Pistons fans would kind of be disappointed. I think some Pistons fans may want to see them potentially get a Cooper Flag or a
Yep.
Dylan Harper or a Ace Bailey type of player. But that's kind of like the two-way street. Where do you go? Do you decide to shoot for the playoffs or do you shoot for the draft? And hopefully that you land a top 5 pick again in this draft because it's definitely better compared to last year's draft. But I definitely overall, whatever they decide to do, I think the Pistons have shown that they are trending upward for sure. And I do like the young guys that they have outside of Cade Cunningham. I do love Jalen Duren. I think he's a
Mm-hmm.
really, really young, player, a big who is a monster on the board. So like I said, they have a lot of young pieces. So I think it's just more so of continuing to add more veterans on this team because they are a very young team. So if they continue to add more veterans and guys that fit with Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, and all those guys, then this is a team that's going to get better. But right now, after being one of the very worst teams in the league last year, they're not that kind of team anymore.
Mm-hmm. And I agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said, man. Like that was a very beautiful take, the way you framed that. With Tobias Harris coming over from Philadelphia, Tim Hardaway Jr., Isaiah Stewart off the bench, like Fontecchio. I really do think they're building a really, really, really good core around Cade Cunningham like that. Like that's one of my favorite things about basketball. Like, don't get me wrong, it sucks that it takes some years to see it play out. But I always tell people the sport of basketball is never going to die. So to see that, we're going to be in the future, like 10 years down the line, like we're going to see what this team really looks like. Like we're going to, it's 2025 now. So we're going to be in 2030. I don't think Cade's going to leave Detroit until he's 23 now. So he won't even think about it until he's 30. He gave him this long and he's seeing the results. And most of these guys, especially when they get drafted by the team, they love being the guy. They love it. Especially when you come as a 19-year-old and you gave the franchise all the time in the world. And it's different behind the scenes. Like, like those trainers and like GMs, I've seen the centerpiece grow up and stuff like that. So it's cool to see Cade really, like I mentioned earlier, get rewarded with his patience with a core players that, they're really unique in their own right, So it's going to be interesting to see the combination of Ivy and Cunningham as they grow older together. Jaden Ivey himself is also having a really good season, so we'll see if they'll be able to form an all-star backcourt. And it's good to have Detroit basketball back. Like I always say, no matter how bad of a team is, like it's still one of the 30, one of the 30 NBA teams. No matter, even if I don't care if you play for the New Orleans Pelicans. Like that is one of the 30. I don't care if you play for the Charlotte Hornets, one of those teams, any of these 30 teams can be the NBA champions come any given year. Of course, it's, obviously it's easier said than done than that with better rosters and things of that nature. But it can happen any year down the line with a better developed roster and anything like that. And like, that's the beauty of it, And even then, how we mentioned that, we could also say that with another team that they just had the third pick in the draft last summer after taking the man out of Kentucky, Reed Shepherd. Got to give some love to the Houston Rockets, who are currently the number 2 seed of the Western Conference on a 5-game winning streak. They're like 27-12 right now as we record this. They really have been absolutely phenomenal. Ime Udoka, like it really does show you how good of a coach he is to not do this not once but twice with 2 different cores and really come in and change the defense, change an identity from the inside out. And it really just like shows you how well-rounded of a team that they are. Jalen Green, the former number 2 pick, speaking of Cade Cunningham, his rival, if y'all don't know, they've been rivals since like middle school, playing AAU and stuff like that. So it's really interesting to see them go 1 and 2, and now they're like, like one person wears blue jerseys, the other wears red jerseys. It's really cool seeing like their dynamic, especially if they really both become like, which they will, become all-stars and stuff like that, like perennial all-stars, like Jalen Green, like every year representing the Houston Rockets as that shooting guard, this and that. But Jalen Green's played great this season, averaging 21 points per game. He says he's just really taking that next step that he was supposed to. He's averaging 43 points a game right now, but we know that Jalen Green's more of an athletic guard. Of course, he can shoot like any other NBA player can, but he's better at excelling when driving to the rim. He's caught some bodies this season. He's looked really, really good, man, really taking over. I'm really happy to see him focus on the court this year, really show how good of a player that he really is, because he was making some headlines on social media over the summer and stuff like that. Of course, enjoying his life as he should. But it's really cool to see him really finally just lock in on the court and really become that franchise centerpiece he was supposed to back in 2021 coming out of that draft. And like I said, he's averaging 21 a game this year, leading his team. Right below him is Alperen Sengun. Really, really unique player. A lot of people refer to him as Baby Jokic, of course, for his versatility on the offensive end. He can score, he can rebound, he's a good playmaker. Truly is a great player and an absolute steal as the 16th pick in the draft. He was drafted by OKC originally, so it's crazy to think what would have happened if they would have kept him. Like, I still think he could have, like, because they got Williams and they got Chat, like they could have just picked whoever, to really build the dynasty with. But appearance Sengun has panned out 100%. He's looking like an all-star this year. He is one of the top voted candidates this season in the Western Conference, of course, being the second best player or first best player, whoever you talk to, on the number 2 seed. Both of those players are really taking the franchise to the next level. And honestly, it's hard to really tell where their ceiling is this year. They don't have much playoff experience like that, but we do know when young athletic teams do get in those moments, most of them do rise to the occasion. Their star players are young, so when it comes down to it, they're gonna have to deliver while not having that much experience in those really big moments, especially coming from the bottom of the Western Conference, like how they were. A part of me is really excited for when Reed Shepherd becomes a part of this core. The 52% 3-point shooter coming out of college. He's a phenomenal guard. He had like 49 points in the G League the other night. So he truly is a great player. And I think he's going to look good. He averaged like 22 points and 8 assists a game in the summer league. And he's really been able to show like his playmaking prowess along with his shooting, and having that cerebral type of playmaker with all of these weapons like Sengun, like Jalen Green, like even with Sengun, who also averages 5 assists a game, that allows Reed to play some off the ball action on like some Curry stuff and really be able to spread the floor even more. There's going to be a real diverse team, especially with Amen Thompson on the team as well, a really good defender himself, and Fred VanVleet as well, another good veteran point guard, averaging 15 points and 6 assists this year, the former NBA champion. So they've honestly looked really good. In my opinion, they have one of the best young cores in the league today, 100%. And I'm just really excited for their future. And it's honestly crazy to think about Jabari Smith Jr., the former number 3 overall pick. He's still coming along himself. He's still only 21 years old, coming out of Auburn. So I'm still really high on Jabari as well. He's injured right now, unfortunately, with a broken left hand. So we're going to see how he performs when he comes back. But how do you feel about the Rockets thus far? They're on a 5-game win streak right now. So they look really good, man. And how do you think they do as the season goes on after the All-Star break and as we near the playoffs?
Yeah, I think they could honestly take a similar path like OKC, not necessarily from a talent standpoint as far as how the team is built, because like you say, they have one of the best young cores in the league,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a lot of draft picks and assets that they could use to go get another star player. You may have heard it today or maybe sometime yesterday where hey, they have interest in Devin Booker. Not saying that Devin Booker is on the market or anything, but I'm just saying that they have enough to go out and get another piece that they can add to this group. And similar to OKC, where they can do the same thing. I believe OKC has more, ammunition to bring in a bigger piece. But all I'm simply saying is that with Houston, with Ime Udoka as the head coach, and like I said, the young guys with Sangoon, Jalen Green, and Reed Shepherd that just came in. So when he develops his game into the NBA level, then you're going to start to see this team become even more dangerous and things of that nature. But right now, they are the second seed in the West, and to your point, they're on a 5-game winning streak. So I think that come playoff time, they may not be a team that may not go deep into the playoffs because to your
Mm-hmm.
point that they don't have much playoff experience. But I think that's why I refer to my point with OKC because they are a very young team, even though that they have guys that have been to the playoffs before. But with Houston, not so many. So I think it could be where, hey, once they get to postseason, then they could go on a deep run. And then when that happens, then in the off season, they continue to add and take the next step. But I think for Houston, I think how just by seeing how far they've come after trading, James Harden and Russell Westbrook, in that era, and you see where
Dwight
they are now.
Howard.
They've come a long way, so it's very, very exciting to see. And like I said, I'm very glad for Ime Udoka for his opportunity in Houston. Like I said, he's doing an amazing job with those guys, and that's the team that's coming up in the West as well. So it's getting stronger out there.
Yeah, man, and like that's the thing. Like they have multiple playmakers on the team. Like Fred VanVleet leads the team with 6 a game, but Alperen and Goon's right behind him with 5. And it's the fact that like they even have that kind of offensive versatility on the team. Like I said, Reed Shepard hasn't even really become a part of the core yet. Like if we fast forward 4 years into the future, don't get me wrong, it's gonna be super hard for him to become a star in Houston. He can be if he comes over on like some Steve Nash averaging like 15 a game and like 11, like he can't, like with great efficiency, he could, that's how he would become a star. But I think it's going to be hard to take the team away from Jalen Green. I do think at a certain point, Green will become that 27 point per game type of scorer. I do think he's capable of doing it. And I just think, man, like he's just supremely athletic. And I think, I've always been high on him. And yeah, I mean, I think the sky's the limit for him at 22 years old. He's only going to continue to improve as long as he stays focused. He turns 23 next month in February, and I'm just really excited for them. Like I feel like Houston, as they continue to get older, we're really going to see them become one of the most like unique offenses in the league. It's just the scary part about it is this like they're good right now. Like,
They
good.
are.
They're good right now. If I'm a Rockets fan, I'm hearing this. I'd feel slighted because don't get me wrong. I think when it hits playoff time, it will become a little bit more difficult. But even as I'm like giving my take on this, me personally, I would really love to hear my man Wiley's take as well. I know he would definitely love to give a take on Houston. So how do you feel about how the Rockets are doing this season, Wiley?
They're playing some real good ball. Like y'all said, they're a young team, but the main thing that I noticed and what I looked up today was their defense. So of course, with Ime Udoka, that was his main thing in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Playing tough defense. Of course, you play good defense. Defense turns into offense. Well, for Houston, they are number 4 in opponents points per game. They rank number 2 in opponent field goals percentage and opponent fast break points, and number 3 in defensive rating and opponents points off turnovers. And they lead the NBA in rebounding. So that's the reason why they're, to me, what's making them so good at this pretty much at, we can call it like an infant stage, so to speak, because of the fact that this team is so young. So, I mean, shout out to Ime, man. Like he's proven, this is his second time proving it. We won't talk about what happened in Boston. We all know about what happened in Boston. But to come back around and come to another team and do the same exact thing.
That was rebuilding at one point. Yeah. This was a rebuilding team when he picked it up. Literally.
Exactly. Rebuilding, and to be able to instill the same tactics and methods that he had in Boston and to make it work here with this young core like that. Hey, sky's the limit for the Rockets, man, as long as they can make that turn. And like you said, the players.
Oh, no, continue. Oh, yeah, no. I was going to ask you a question when you were done. Continue.
Yeah, but as long as your main, your main guys are able to make that turn, and then as the team, if they're able, of course, depending on how they're able to keep this team or keep as many pieces on this team, that's the limit for them.
That's what my question was going to be. Literally, I'm really happy you got to that. As we really analyze one of the top teams in the future and right now, of course, do you think this core, as they develop, would be enough to win a championship? Like, do you think Green could be like the superstar? They would have 2 superstars. I'm not leaving out Parents and going out at all. I do think he's already averaging 10 rebounds a game, and he's putting on the muscle needed to. I do think that he will be a 24 point, 12 rebound, and 7. It's like honestly another Jokic for Houston. as well as another shooting guard that's extremely athletic and average 20 with Jabari Smith Jr., who's going to develop and get better, and Reed Shepherd, who's an outstanding, almost generational shooter with his playmaking ability. Do you think, like, I mean, I can't put a date on it. Like, do you think around like 2032, like 20, around like that's, I'm 25, I'll be 34. So Jalen's going to be like 31 around that time. Like Jalen Green will be around 30 at that time. Like, do you think by 2030, 2031 around there, they would have at least contended for a championship? Wiley first.
I was going to say it's, I mean, I wouldn't see why not, but also it depends on the organization. You know, we've seen organizations, they'll kill a team by trying to make certain moves and they turn out not being the right moves. But let's just, for instance, let's just say this team, they're able to keep a good portion of this team. I think they will be contending in the playoffs and giving teams like OKC, like a Denver, a run for their money.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How do you feel about their future, Garrett, with this core?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that's the point I was making earlier, that they have the assets to go and get another guy to add to them. But even to your point with Sengun and Jalen Green, both of them are very young. So if we say maybe within the next, I don't know, 3 or 4 years and see where they are now, and I think that they are going to continue to get better. And then that's when you could see them to be a contending team. But for me, I'm one of those guys where, okay, you find your your nucleus of who's going to be that core that's going to help you contend for a championship, and then you build around the auxiliary pieces around that. So I think you found that with Jalen Green, Sengun, maybe Reed Shepherd, just depending on his development. But after that, then it's more so, okay, what are they going to do with the assets that they have to build around those guys? Because that's always important with, containing teams. When you look at teams like Denver, for example, when, they have Jokic, they have Jamal Murray, what they went out and do, they drafted Michael Porter Jr., they added Bruce Brown, they've added Michael Porter, not Michael Porter Jr., but KCP and other guys, when they won that championship. So that goes for any team. So that's what I'm looking for Houston in the foreseeable future. But I think what they have now, they're definitely on the right track for sure. So they need to stay the course and continue what they do, and they'll be in there.
Now, I'll say this last thing, and I'll hang up and listen.
Oh no! Actually, Wiley, I was going to say, and not even to cut you off. I'm so sorry about that. I was going to say, because what I was about to say, I agree with what both of you just said. Me personally, because I'm looking at this team, like comparing them to teams like like OKC, like Denver when they won the championship back in 2023. That was it was 23. Yeah, it's always it's been a minute already. I'm sorry about the Celtics won it last year, right. And with that, I think I always say, as long as you have a superstar at the top, like, of course you need pieces. They can't just be a superstar with a whole bunch of dead role players and stuff like that. You have to have the right pieces. But the point is that it's a championship core, like a championship window is what I like to call it. As long as you have that young core with that superstar at the top of the roster, like, you have a championship window. So with them having two players who could become a superstar, or really, honestly, well on their ways to being superstars at the NBA levels right now, with how young they are, and playing at the way that they at the level that they are right now. I do think that Houston, with having two superstars at the top of the roster and all of their core, I think you can honestly call that a championship window for Houston. This is my final answer on the Rockets. I'm saying I do think that. I do think they will. It's hard. I think people don't understand how hard it is to really compete for a ring, man. Like, to really be the last team standing at the end of the season out of 30 teams. Like, it's so hard to do that. People just don't. I feel like we get so used to it under time, like over time, that we've been desensitized to it, and how hard it is to really form that core over time and really see those dudes, those teenagers turn into grown men with each other and win this ring after like taking all those losses after all those years. And we're seeing Houston do that now. And I actually mentioned their two superstars because it actually goes into our next topic. And I was gonna say I wanted you to actually stay here for this last topic, Wiley, because I did want your opinion on this. Now, obviously, the Houston Rockets are the 2 seed right now with Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun playing phenomenal. But I don't think neither are in the running. Well, like they probably are, but like realistically, are they going to win the most valuable player? I think it'd be pretty difficult. Seeing how, because they're both playing their roles the way that they should, but neither is averaging those MVP numbers like how you have to in 2025. And someone who is, in my opinion, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder. I do think he is playing phenomenal right now. And I mentioned the championship window point earlier because with a player like Shai at the top of the roster for Oklahoma City Thunder and a Chet Holmgren, like with how young they are, for however long, like Shai goes from 26 years old to 31 years old, like whatever, that will be Oklahoma City Thunder's championship window. Like for Houston, like their window is going to be so long with the players playing the way that they are. But my question to y'all is with Shai playing at an MVP level, do you think he might have locked up the MVP as of right now? Or do you think there's another person out there who could come and steal the MVP from Shai? As of right now, he's the only minus betting favorite for the most valuable player award of 2025. He's averaging 31 points a game right now. And the team that he's leading, Oklahoma, are 33-6 at the top of the Western Conference. So do y'all think Shai might have locked it up right now? Or do you think someone else could come in and get it? Wiley first, Garrett second.
A lock? No. Because there's a bad man by the name of Joker out there who's also averaging 31.5 points a game, 13 rebounds, and pretty much a triple-double, 9.7
assists. 10 assists almost, yeah, absolutely.
Now, if you look at Denver's team, they've been up and down. They've been up and down throughout the season. So, of course, SGA is going to get that nod because OKC's playing. They're playing fucking lights out. But I don't want to necessarily say it's going to be a lock now. If OKC continues to play like they're playing now, and let's say they have a total of like, we'll say 11 to 12 losses. Like, yeah, it'll probably be a lot, especially if SGA continues to play like he's playing now. But I don't want to necessarily call it a lot because, again, you have Joker and you have Giannis, who are both of them are averaging over 30, over 30
a game.
Yep. And it's just like to be honest, we haven't seen anything like this where you have 3 people that are considered in the running for MVP where they're all averaging over 30 points a game. So that may be I look, and I could be wrong. Somebody may have to pull up the stats, but since I've been watching the NBA, I've never seen it to where you have 3 MVP candidates and they're all averaging over 30 points a game. That's wild to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, I think, for me, I think while Jokic is still in the league, I think he's always going to be up there. My take on it is a little bit different from Wiley's, but when I say that is that when you look at OKC and you look at Denver, OKC, yes, they have the better record, of course, the number 1 seed. But when you look at outside of SGA, I think that their depth is better than Denver's, considering the fact that Denver, they've lost some auxiliary auxiliary pieces that they had in that championship run. They don't have Bruce Brown. They don't have KCP no more. So to Wiley's point, they've been having an up and down season this year. Now they are still a top 4 seed, and I don't know. The trade deadline is almost here on February 6th. So Denver, they could possibly make a move to add in a defensive guy to add more depth to their roster. But the point I'm trying to make is that I think even though, and look, SGA, I think he would definitely be a finalist for the MVP award. But the reason why I would still give it to Joker is because of the fact that without him, I mean, Denver wouldn't be where they are right now. And I don't know, you could say the same thing for OKC. So if SGA is not on that roster, yeah, they may not be the number 1 seed, but it's possible that they could still be a top 4 seed because, like I said, they have a lot more depth to their roster. But obviously, we know that SGA, he's the one that gets the engine going on that team. But I just think that for Jokic, I just believe that without him and the numbers he's putting up, I think Denver, they wouldn't be where they are right now. So, and like I said, they're playing with less talent on their team as well. So I think that gives Jokic even more credit as to why he's more valuable of a player than SGA, because SGA has more talent around his team. But like I said, I think both guys would definitely be a finalist. So I think it'll come down to the wire. But I think that we know, how the NBA works with politics and stuff. I think SGA may get it this time, but then again, Jokic, he won it last year, so I mean, yeah.
I've been saying we saw
Just keeping it real.
We saw it with Embiid. Yep, I'm with you. We saw it with Embiid. With Embiid winning that, I personally thought Joker should have got that.
Me too. Yep.
Well, let me ask then again, Garrett. Wiley first, Garrett second. What, in your opinion, is the most valuable player? Like, is it like when like you? I mean, they cannot win without you. Like, you really have you have to be on the court for them to even have a chance. Or is it like the best player on like the best team in a conference? Like if you're still averaging above like 30 plus on a team that's already super loaded. Like that, because obviously like that shows like the usage rate, how much you bring to a team that's already really good, and stuff like that. And also it shows your impact on winning as well. Like you have to win at the end of the day. Like a lot of people, like, man, it's like how I said on the last episode. LaMelo Ball is like the most highly voted Eastern guard in the for the All-Star team right now. And Charlotte, like they're not that good. And he's still must see TV LaMelo Ball. He will forever be relevant. He will forever be in the eyes of the public, even though his team might not make the playoffs. Like the next few seasons, they have Brandon Miller, of course, who I'm really high on. And they're improving. Like, and that backcourt's gonna be ridiculous when they get the core around them. But I just think that's my question to y'all. Like, what do you consider the most valuable player? What is your definition? Wiley first, Garrett second.
It's a mixture, man. It's a mixture of everything that you mentioned. Like, how do they affect winning? Can you win? Is your team able to win if they're not in the lineup? Like you said, of course, all the analytics portion starts to come into play, like win shares and all that good stuff. Like it's all a combination of it, of course, and then on top of that, eye test. But see, the thing with Joker is, of course, his eye test is completely different from SGA and Giannis. Joker is probably one of the best passing center. He's definitely the best passing center in the league, and that's something that it'll get acknowledged, but it's not going like like SGA and Giannis. That's not a wow factor for like fans and the media. So I feel like it's kind of a knock against him, although that's probably the best part of his game is his passing, because it opens up everything for the Nuggets. And we've seen it time and time again. That for me, that was the reason why they won the championship. His pass, being able, he's tall enough to see over everybody. He can make these skip passes, and he does it like it's second nature. And he's doing it at damn near like he's a damn point guard. So, but to go back to what makes the MVP, it to me, it's all of it combined. But at the end, it gets nitpicked by the media when they get ready to choose.
Right.
Yeah, I think to Wiley's point, it is a mixture of both of being the best player in the league during that season, and also can you win with this player as well. But for me, I think it's more so of can we win with this, with this player, honestly. And you can make a case for anybody that's won MVP, even if you feel like that player may not deserved it, because when you look at Wiley's point, when Embiid won MVP, because if he wasn't playing at that level, because we all know Joel Embiid, he's not a guy that you can rely on when it comes to his health. I mean, he's had multiple major injuries throughout his entire career. So it's like, okay, if he wasn't healthy during that season, then they wouldn't have been where they were at that time. They wouldn't have had one of those many games during that season. So I think it's more so, can we win with this player? And to Wiley's point about Jokic, again, I mean, he's averaging a triple double. I mean, yes, he's averaging 9.7, but you might as well call it 10 at this point. So it's just the fact that with him, it's like if he's not playing at this level, or if he's not even here for this season, then they wouldn't be a top 4 seed team. So I think it's definitely more so of having to do with, can you win with this player? I mean, you can, like I said, refer back to the Jokic and the SGA conversation. Like, if you take both of those guys out off their team and you look at the other players on the roster, you could say that OKC is a better team because they have better depth than Denver. I mean, even though Chet Holmgren, he's injured, but I mean, he's playing like a unicorn. Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams, and all those guys. But yeah, I think it's definitely more so of having to do with, can you win with this player? So I think that's how the voting should go. But I mean, then again, being the best player in the league, I mean, you can't count that out either, because numbers do matter, and you're seeing it with both SGA and Jokic and the other guys that have won MVP awards in the past as well.
Again, man, y'all make a great argument. It's a great argument. I'm not gonna lie. It's just like, because I'm sitting there thinking about it, like I'm thinking about like who makes like the players around them better, and obviously that's Nikola. You feel me? Most definitely with like, because that's his responsibility as like the beating heart of that team versus a team like Oklahoma that has so many weapons. Like, it's ridiculous. Of course, shout out to Sam Presti. I think, look, like, obviously it's hard to deny Nikola. When he's, because okay, like 30, I'm doing that too. Like, okay, I can give you 10 rebounds, and not just 10. I can give you almost 15 rebounds a game, and I can give you 10 assists too. So don't get me wrong, it's extremely hard to deny him. If Jamal Murray was playing better, like if everyone was just playing better so they could like have a better record this year and stuff like that, he would absolutely. It's hard to beat a triple-double. Shai's averaging 30 points a game as well. It's just, it's the only thing that like Shai has over Nikola is the record. If it's individually, like, I mean, we both know, we all know like the answer. Like, that's me completely being unbiased, 100%. I just think it's the shiny record. It's a super shiny record. They've dominated. Like, they were just on like a crazy win streak themselves at one point. I think they had won like 11 in a row or something like that. And then Cleveland, of course, in the other conference, won 12 in a row. And we saw they're facing off literally right now And we're seeing like I said, it's 2 games now that they played, but it'd be 1-1. But in this particular meeting, OKC's like blowing the doors off, and I feel like that was them learning from that first meeting that they had with Cleveland and really making the adjustments with making the proper adjustments with Mark Daigneault on the sideline. I'm really high on him as a head coach, and yeah, man, I feel like again, like it's hard, you feel me, to make a decision. It's just for me, the only reason, like the literal only reason I think SGA would get it over Nikola, it's the record. Like his team's just winning so much. They're dominating this year compared to Denver, who's had some holes in their game. Fresh off a championship 2 years ago now, counting 2025. So it's a neck and neck race. We're gonna see what happens. Outside of those two, the only other players are really in the running. Of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo, as we mentioned, he's still playing like a monster this year in Milwaukee. We're gonna see how the Bucks do, at this moment. Like they're doing all right. Obviously, like they went through a fair amount of adversity in the beginning of the season, but they're 22-17. So I don't know if he's gonna be able to really lock the record up. I mean, like to really change the record to try to become a lock for MVP himself, the former 2-time MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jason Tatum, another MVP candidate. He's the leader of the Boston Celtics, obviously, and they're 28-12 as the 2 seed. So Cleveland definitely has the first seed locked up for the Eastern Conference, so it's kind of surprising not to see Donovan Mitchell be considered in the MVP race. Trying to use the same argument for him that I use for SGA being the best player on the best team in a conference. You think Donovan would at least be in the top 5 of the running.
Right now is not a good time to talk about that, as Cleveland is getting their doors blown off by OKC, and SGA has 40 points and 8 assists.
I mean, yes. So I mean, that just man, like, and even then, I think he's tapping into more of a playmaker now. Like he's really starting because he knows that's what's gonna take his game to the next level. He's averaged like 5 assists a game here and there with the last few seasons. I think if he were to really become a dual threat like that, especially with all the weapons that he has on his team, he'd be crazy. I think it's just not, it's in his nature to be a scorer, first point guard, and his teammates know that, and they want him to continue to be aggressive. They want him to play like that. Even Jalen Williams himself likes taking the playmaking responsibility sometimes, and even Chet can dribble it up the floor if they need to. So it's really a truly positionless team that they do have. I even think if SGA, if they got like, because Chris Paul was there at one point, if they had like, like a point guard like that was purely pass first, I think SGA moving over to the shooting guard will unlock his game even more. Being able to fully let the chopper go every single night. Of course, he can do it now being the primary ball handler, but as a shooting guard at 6'6" and everything like that, I think he would get almost like James Harden type 36 a game at the shooting guard position. But as we end the conversation outside of SGA and Nikola, did y'all have anyone else who you think could be an honorable mention for the most valuable player award? And who is your final answer as we end the podcast this evening? Wiley first, Garrett second.
My OLI would be Wemby.
Okay.
25 points, 11 rebounds, 4 blocks a game.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's inevitable. Like that's gonna happen now. Like, when they build the core around him, like if you fast forward in the future in the time portal, you're 2033 MVP, like it's gonna happen. He's absolutely gonna take home at least one of those in his career. I'd be shocked if he didn't with the proper team around him. I
was gonna say just real quick, if
you're fine.
If that team keeps a couple of pieces, it's 2 outside of Wemby. If they keep Steven Castle and he's their point guard moving forward, I like that combo. I like Stephen Castle coming out of UConn and being drafted to that. I got hyped when I see him get drafted there, because I was like, oh, he's going to be with Wemby, and the way that his game is set, it's kind of SGA-ish, but he's actually he's a very good passer. So I was like, ooh, I like that. And then next thing you know, they go and get Chris Paul, and I was like, well, he's gonna have to sit behind Chris Paul, but you get to sit behind a future Hall of Famer in a point guard in Chris Paul. So it's kind of it's a perfect setup for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think my honorable mention would be Jason Tatum, considering the fact that I think that he is a top 5 player in the league. I'm not talking about in the East, but overall in the league. Mm-hmm. And I'd be shocked if he doesn't get at least one before he retires. I just think that obviously he's the best player on that team, with Boston led them to the finals. And I just think that with his game, it's really crazy how much his game has evolved ever since he's been drafted. I mean, he's one of those guys that I mean, we talk about superstars, because there's nobody that can stop a superstar from scoring. We all know superstars are going to get theirs, but when it comes to Jason Tatum, I mean, he's one of those guys that, hey, he's going to get his. You just have to deal with it. So yeah, I think for Jason Tatum, I would love to see him at least get one. I know, like I said, as long as Jokic is still playing in the league, obviously he's going to be in the mix always. But of course, at some point, you want to see other players, get love as well. So I think if Jokic doesn't get it this year, I would like to see Jason Tatum get it.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah. That's for me. That's honestly it. I think SGA will win his first MVP at 26 years old this summer, and really add on to his future Hall of Fame career. I think as he continues to only get better, he'll only continue to be a perennial all-star, and he will. I know it's pretty early to call that, but he will go on to, God forbid that boy get injured, anything like that, he will indeed be a future Hall of Famer. He's a superstar. He's only going to continue to make the All-Star team, continue to represent Oklahoma. I think he's going to retire a Thunder. I'd be shocked if he left his teammates, his core. It's built around they built it together, like the whole team together, but it's still built around SGA too at a certain point. But with the way they have constructed it, especially with a 5-out team and how tall they are, how long they are, like they truly are. It truly is a special team that they are building. And we're gonna see if they can bring home that NBA championship sometime. We'll see if it's this season. They might have learned from their mistakes from last year. They're definitely gonna try to do it this year. I think a lot of people aren't really talking about them enough to really go all the way this year, to really like win a ring this year. Like Oklahoma, like to be this young and not even have Chet, like, it's pretty crazy. It's the regular season. It's different when they play a game knowing they have 81 left, and it's a regular season game. Of course, you have to win a certain amount to make the playoffs, so you can't not care. But it's a playoff game is a totally different level of intensity, even if it's the first game in a series and stuff. That's like, I always say, like, the the regular season is for the kids and the playoffs are for the adults, because the kids aren't gonna, like, of course they don't want to pay attention to basketball like that. They're not gonna know why their team's just not on TV anymore. They're just not playing no more, It sucks when you see your team really like go home like that. The regular season is all fun and stuff, but the ultimate goal every season, no matter what, is to bring home that ring for all 30 teams, no matter who it is. And we're going to see who the best player who will be this season, but I think Shai's going to take it. And yeah, that's it for me on this evening's show. Unless you have anything else, Garrett, that you did want to share yourself. That's it for me, my man.
Nope. That is all.
Want to give a shout out to the man Wiley on the ones and twos. You boys can please go follow the boy Wiley across all social medias. He's a great guy, great producer. As you can see, extremely talented with what he does on the ones and twos. And again, thank y'all for joining us for episode 59 of the Uncommon Commentators. Catch us back next Thursday as well when we put out this episode, or of course whenever y'all get to catch it. It's no rush. We're here every week for y'all. I'm gonna stay consistent, and you all stay blessed, stay safe, stay warm, and stay consistent for the dream that you're chasing, whatever it is, no matter what. And do you have any closing notes, Garrett, or you're good?
Yeah, thank you all for tuning in with us. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Like I said, we really do love you guys and appreciate your support. We'll be back at it next week. So thank you guys again.
God bless y'all. Good night.